Hi, my beautiful friends, and welcome to What Would Laura Do? This is our segment that we do every single week where I come on, I answer your questions, whether they've been DM'd here or they've been DM'd on my personal page, or it's from the podcast, or it's from my private clients, things of that nature. But this is the space where I get to really coach you in these aspects and answer what's been going on in people's lives so that you can learn from that. I am a trauma and relationship specialist. If you are new to our world, I really help liberate the woman and live in the present moment so that she can navigate relationships without the triggers of her past getting away, especially for the high-level, high-performing CEO that, has built her way to the top and hasn't really dealt with those relationship leaks yet. Now she's seeing how it's dancing into other parts of her life and ready to step into this. That's what we do. And so this question actually comes from a woman that I deeply love and care about, and I'm going to give stories of my own, but the question was around cheating. The question was, can we bounce back after infidelity? Like, is there a next chapter? Is there something else? And I'm going to give two perspectives on this. I'm going to share my stories because if you're been in my world for a while, this was one of my biggest woundings that I've had to heal over this last year and in my relationship patternings, because every partner I've ever had has cheated on me. And I had to look at that from a nervous system and trauma standpoint and why the cycle is repeating, because we get to a point when this keeps happening and we go, I'm the common denominator. So what do I want to do next? So I invite you to start with that question. It's not that we're at fault. We don't cause these things, but we're responsible for how we choose to respond, which I know that's where that question is coming from. So there's two ways this can happen. One, if it's true love. If it is one of those, this is my person and it was a weak moment and, there's stuff behind it. When it's true love, I go nuts for that stuff. I believe that. I believe that can be healed when two people have 2 feet in after something and they're like, I actually realized, you're my person. This was a huge mistake and I want to rebuild. There's that stance. When we're in that stance, beauty can come, and I'm going to talk on mostly that. But there's this other one where we self-abandon because we don't want to be alone, but we know that's not our person and they're not even really that sorry about it. But because we don't really know how to stand on our 2 feet, because we're navigating either trauma bonds or codependency or, these aspects of ourselves, that we make excuses. I remember being in my trauma bonding relationship and my codependent. He was actually known as the Tinder King. And I just stopped caring. It kept happening so much. I just kept making excuses. It's his addictions. It's his stuff. It's his family stuff. It's his father. I would make so many excuses because I actually didn't want to be alone. But I knew he was never actually sorry. He was only angry and he was only sorry at first. And then he would win me back. And then it would happen again. And then it was like this ping pong thing of there was never any consistency. So then this insecurity would come up anytime he went out and all these things would happen to my body and I would never feel normal. Because I didn't actually have a relationship with myself and I didn't have, the ability to put 2 feet down and go, you know what? This isn't what I deserve, nor is it what I desire. I'm out. But at that time, my self-worth was so low that I thought that's what I was worth. I thought the breadcrumbs and the little bits of love, and I thought no one else would understand me the way that he does, and I'd make excuse for his poor behavior. And I'd stay. And it was like this external conflict of no one else understanding me. I didn't want to be alone. I was living in Asia. It was all these things. He was the only person that I loved him. I loved him, so I thought. I was trauma bonded. I was codependent. And this internal need, somehow I can fix him. Somehow he's going to choose me. Somehow if I just do better. Somehow if, I just act better or show up differently, or I'm this way or I'm that way, or I express these needs, wants, and desires in a very sexual way so I could allure him in and use my sex magic and what have you, then he'll stay. And maybe you can relate to this because it's so hard when that happens, because sometimes but you're so far along, you've lost touch with your intuition, and you don't want it to look a certain way, especially if you're married, or you're like, I see this with my married clients, I see this with women in this entrepreneurial field, where it's like, how is this gonna look? I can't let anyone know this happened to me. There's shame, there's guilt. You don't even tell your best friend. How's it gonna look? But that energy leak leads into the rest of your life. You know, I remember getting to the point where it's like other people saw it. Like, Laura, what are you doing? I don't know. And so maybe you can relate to this. Maybe it's not as extreme as that. Maybe it's something in your life that comes up in that. But, you know, when you hit that point, you know, I remember the point where it was just like, knees on the floor moment. Like, what am I actually doing? What am I doing? I want a love story of the ages. And it was after I started to do the self-development work and step into these portals and all these kind of things. It was like, I want a love story for the ages. This is it. This is not it. And yes, I'm going to be scared. And so I started to build up my resources around me, my friendships, my traveling alone, my solitude, my independence. I started to, you know, because this was such a traumatic relationship, go to 12 steps, go to Al-Anon, go to Coda, lean into that, learn more about the nervous system work, which is what led me to my career path that I have now, and what ultimately led to Sacred Singlehood. But it was in these moments of taking radical ownership, in these moments of nothing's going to change if I don't change. This is going to keep happening. He's not going to change. You know, really reflecting inward. Not that fault, but taking responsibility. How am I at play here? You know, I was in my mastermind this morning, and they were asking me about, like, my different, what's my relationship to victims, and how do I help people through things like this. And we go through stages, right, where it's like that little child inside of us needs to be a victim at first. Like, we need to be in that stage, the little child just like throwing the temper tantrum, hands out, someone help me, someone fix me, I don't know what to do. We're not taking radical ownership over our life. We're not at that stage yet. Like, we get to have that victimhood, and like we get to be in that. And then we come to this other stage where it's like the survivor complex, where it's like, I fucking did that, and it's like this badge of honor, and it gets our butt off that floor, and it helps us leave this relationship, and it helps us get in the doors of support that we need, and it's this survivor, it's this warrior. And then you get to the stage that I'm at, my clients ultimately get to, where it's like radical ownership over every single thing that happened in your life. And it's not that we excuse anyone's poor behavior or welcome it back into our life. It's just we see that we were responsible, that we take ownership over these parts of our lives, and therefore we set ourselves free so this stuff doesn't happen again. And there's these 3 stages we walk ourselves through inside of my intimate containers to ultimately get there. Like, these things aren't a part of my story anymore. They do not happen. Right? Like, it's not even a story I really identify with unless I tell these stories. And even then, it doesn't feel like it's alive in my body anymore, because we get to do the healing work to ultimately get us there. And then there's that other side. And this is what happened in my last relationship, where I loved him so much. And I went into that relationship ready for marriage. We both did. And it was a lot. And because I was in the self-development state, I was projecting a lot onto the relationship, and there was a lot of energy imbalances, and like it had to be the one, and very, on my part, selfish. And there were parts of myself I self-abandoned in rose-colored glasses, and I wasn't listening, and I wasn't seeing, even though my intuition, his intuition, both said this isn't it. And he got cold feet, and, you know, he had been wishy-washy basically our entire relationship, because again, I worked in this field, right? But I loved him. Now looking back in hindsight, I can see all these things, right? But I'm going to tell it from that perspective when I was in it. I loved him so much, and I was in it as if it was my marriage. And for me, cheating, when it is in a form of, if there's the long term, this was going on for a long time, that to me can be a little bit heavier on my soul. But I know my clients that have had good relationships and rebuilt their marriages after that. But the thing that has to come in those types of situations, and these types of situations where both parties want to do the healing, right? Like me and my partner, my ex had gone to therapy. Like we were in it to fix it because we wanted it to work. We both really wanted it to work. It just didn't in the end, but we wanted it to. So we're in therapy, and the way it works is we have to start a new relationship completely over. It is two new people. It is not coming into a container and going, yeah, but you did this and I felt that and this is whatever. Like, yes, we have these stages of growth and awareness and having to break it down, but at first it's coming into the relationship of like, this is a new relationship. What is gone is gone. Yes, we have to look at like what went right, what went wrong, what are we doing differently? We have to look at, what in my relationship, what in this did I call this in, and what is this? Hi, baby. Well, for anyone watching, please say hi, Hannah. We're talking about cheating and how we can bounce back. And so when, we're assessing it, when we find out someone cheats and we're in this moment, like again, going back to the victimhood story, like you get to throw your tantrum, you get to do these things, you get to be angry, you get to act in this response, and then you get to feel like, okay, we're in this, we're both surviving this. It's a choice of survivor. And then we move into the context of the container of now it's a completely new relationship. This isn't coming in and looking at, okay, he did this, and if he goes out and he responds, like the inner work is ultimately trusting him, her, them, and yourself. What is your boundary around that? If it happens again, how do you respond? And also the communication patterns with that person, knowing they're going to have to build trust, like going slow. It's not jumping back in, pretending it didn't happen. It's jumping back in, knowing that you're rebuilding a new relationship, rebuilding this trust, having those hard conversations. What was missing? Because ultimately in a relationship where there's infidelity, two parties are responsible for that. One person may have just done the act, but there are two parties that we're turning a blind eye to something. Because in a relationship, there are two, always. And if you're going to make something work, there is no finger pointing. It is you and me against the problem. Not me against you because you're a scumbag and you stuck your dick in something. That doesn't work when we're in relationship recovery mode if two parties want to heal it. Does that make sense? And so these kind of things, it's like that external and that internal conflict, right? That external is the pressure. How is this going to look with our friends and our family, and how do we do it because it's just us? And then there's this like silent shame thing and this guilt, and then that internal thing between self of how am I ever going to trust him again? How did I not see this coming? How did the person I love do that? How am I ever going to love them again, or see them through a lens, or move through this with ease, or how? And then we get to this moment where it's a wall, right? Like it's a wall, it's a choice. It's I can either step into this arena with this person and choose to trust that they learned their lesson, and I can do the work on me so I can rid the shame and I can rid the guilt and I can show up in this container of this relationship and communicate more effectively instead of victim blaming and pointing a finger. Because if we're doing that, we're emasculating the other person on the other side. I'm not just saying it's men. It could have been you that cheated, right? It could have been you. But we come into this container and it's like, what now? What is the solution here? Is a phrase if you're in relationship with me, whether it's friendships or business or anything, that's how I approach any heavy situation. I hear your pains, I hear the victim, and what's the solution here? Right? Maybe you can relate to this, maybe not. Maybe you've never dealt with infidelity or any of these things, but it's so common. It is so common, especially in high-performing women, that we don't want to talk about this. That we don't want to talk about the aches and the pains and the relationship leaks. This is why the reclamation, the free masterclass that's happening next week, was birthed. Let's talk about these relationship leaks that we put in the back end because our career came first. Let's talk about how we have been so in our masculine that we've been rejecting the feminine, and now there's a relationship imbalance. And now we don't know how to soften. And now we don't know how to get out of our mothering energy. And now we don't trust them or ourselves. So what do you want to do about it, right? And so you have these epiphanies, you have this opportunity in the present moment to shift and mold and enter into a space that is new and fresh and beautiful and deep. And there's so many stages about infidelity and bouncing back and things of that nature, where it's like it can be hot and passionate. They're like, I've been having the best sex that I've ever been having, like what's going on? And it's like, because we reawaken this like dating phase, right? And next year I'm going to be coming out with a dating program where I'm going to talk about this, and this is something that we don't need to lose and only gain when we actually accidentally fall out of the relationship. But we can keep this alive, we can keep that dating phase alive, and there's a lot of passion, and there's this like, why do I just want to have sex with my husband now all the time, or my partner all the time, when like before that wasn't happening, and this is what led to this. Like, there are so many aspects of cheating, but it and recovery and things of that nature, but it's stepping into it and like having this epiphany of like, I am in this. And yes, sometimes I'm going to be triggered, but I have the skills, and I'm working on my skills to communicate that effectively. I remember when I was going through this with my partner, and we were ultimately, that relationship did not work out, but the way we handled the infidelity, I'm very proud of the both of us. I am very proud of it, which is a weird thing to say about infidelity. But he handled it like a man, and I handled it like the woman that I am. And I remember anytime I was activated, at first it was really hard. Like, he's a pilot, right? Like, so every time I was like, and I was like the stereotypical thing with the flight attendant, and I was like, come on, don't fucking fit a cliche so much. But so anytime he was on a work trip, it was like we had to put these containers around our relationship, where it was like you call, you check in. Some of it was FaceTiming in the beginning, and it felt a little bit like helicopter mom, and I felt weird about it, but at the same time, am I going to self-abandon and feel bitter for the sake of you feeling comfortable? And he understood the assignment, right? Like, that's the difference. If your partner, whomever it is like, I'm not doing all of this shit, that's not really being sorry for what you did. But if the person fell out of the relationship is willing, is like, of course, like, I will FaceTime, I will show you the room, I will call you night and day, I will check it, like, I am here to prove to you that you are it for me. There is that kind of energy as well, where it's like, okay, and of course there's going to be crunches at time. That's why therapy or coaching is so important during these times, because when we can only see life through the lens of our triggers, we're not really going to get through anything. But when we have a safe space where we can come and, this is what was activating me, this was activating me, and we're talking to a third party instead of at each other's wounds, and then coming up with a solution to create a safe container around the relationship, there's options for success. Nowadays, we live in a very tempting, very swipe culture, plenty of options world. And it's never to say, I am not like, yes, the divorce rates are so high, sure. Infidelity rates are through the fucking roof, yes. But the love that is real here nowadays, the love that lasts, is so real. I have tears in my eyes, because that's what I look at. I get there's a lot of temptation out there. I get it. We have fucking walking matchmakers in our hands at all times. There are more options than ever. But the ones that lean into conflict, the ones that are like the way my partner is now, not my ex, the man that I have now in my life, when something happens and two people that want to do the work together, how beautiful that gets to be. And that starts with you. Like, the way that man now leans in, sexy man, if you guys have heard me refer to him, like the way, if there's conflict or if there's a trigger, if there's something, it's like this lean in that is so fucking hot, that gives my body just like this, like, oh, we're safe here. there's someone giving an effort here. Like, that's the statistics that I care about. Like, yes, divorce rates are fucking high. Relationship and modern dating gets a bad rap. I don't fucking subscribe to any of that shit. I don't subscribe to the struggles of it. Like, I can witness it. Yes, I can witness that business is hard. I can witness that dating is hard. I refuse to fucking believe it's a struggle. I refuse in every fiber of my being to believe that relationships are hard, and it's got to be a struggle, and it's got to be this trigger space where you're healing all these trauma wounds together and doing it. That is not what relationships are. Relationships are your safe place to land, and it gets to be fun, and it gets to be delightful, and there's a way of handling conflict, and there's a way of leaning in if you really are in one that you want to work. If you're really in a container where it's like two people that love each other, these are the statistics I'm looking at. Love now is deeper than ever because we have more tools and resources, and it is so fucking powerful. Yes, there's temptations. Yes, there's things, but when two people choose to put 2 feet in, it's revolutionary. It's literally iconic. It's what birthed my one-on-one name. It's fucking iconic. And so when we're looking at these things, these are the two, right? Like, I know I was just talking about my current relationship, but these are the two. There's one where it's like self-abandoning. We actually don't want to leave. There's trauma bonding. There's codependency. There's that type of cheating where it's like, I just need to actually get the strength to leave. We got to do that work. We got to take radical ownership over that. We got to go through the stages of victimhood to self-ownership. And then there's the other one where it's like real love. Real fucking love. 2 people putting in. And I get in my story, we didn't work out. But that's not why we didn't work out. We didn't work out because his interests couldn't be resolved. And different things. I know that sounds weird, but if you've been new here, it's this whole Latin woman thing, and he didn't want a big life like I want, and millions impacted and traveling and doing, like, our paths were not aligned. And then ultimately you set yourself free and you find love or the opportunity for it. But all of this comes down to the reclamation of yourself. All of this comes down to shifting your story. All of this comes down to looking at your energy leaks so that you can put 2 feet in. Heal, the imbalances in your own body, the trauma responses, the triggers, the foundations that you've maybe been bypassing as you built your career, or you built out your education, or you built out being a mother, or whatever it is that took you away from self. It starts and ends with you looking at your life, looking at how much space you have, falling back in love, understanding your hormones, understanding how your body works, understanding that your turn on is what makes the world spin. And getting that back into yourself, like getting back and like getting these juices flowing and like healing the shit. Like we do this thing in our relationships now where we make that person our fucking everything. They are our healer, they are our lover, they are our partner, they are our business partner, they are our co-parent, they are, our husband, they are our best friend, they are our therapist, they're our mentor. Like, we put way too many things in one basket, and we wonder why it doesn't work, and we wonder why we don't have the strength to walk away, and we don't know why we all of a sudden are afraid to fucking speak our voice, or we lost the intimacy. It's like, look at the way that our relationship is. Is it the same way it was in the beginning? No, like, there's, of course not. We grow more like vulnerable and in depth, and we love that part of relationships, but it's like, there's a way of doing this that's iconic. There's a way of doing this that brings life. There's a way of doing this that amplifies who you are. There's a way of doing this that is so safe. And it's that type of love, you know what I'm talking about when I say it, the type of love where you're like, this is what I knew was available. This is what I wanted. This is what I get. This is what I deserve. This is what I'm proud of. Right? And so this is what I'm teaching you inside of the reclamation. It's our 3-day free event that is happening next week. All you have to do is message me here saying I'm in, and I'll send you the private link. It's going to be free up until the 23rd of December. And if you're catching this after this, that is going to be a paid program. I think we're going to do it at $444. It might go up from there. I don't know. It's going to be huge. It's unlike anything that I've ever done before in my life, because this has been the work of my life this last year and has been the foundations of everything that's up leveled. So if you want that link, all you have to do is message me. I'm in. Me or Cassandra will send you the link and you can join. And if you're looking for more high-level support, I do have spaces available for Iconic, which is my 6-month container of helping you heal and realign and show up and date and love and all the aspects of relationships that we want to start building. I'm seeing this movement, especially inside of the entrepreneurial space, of women that are, longing for love and spending all their money on business containers, thinking like that's going to fill the void. And so if you're one of my high performing women and 2023 is the year you want to put 2 feet in on your relationship, and you're ready to look at this stuff, and that these energy leaks, and that your relationship stuff isn't where you want, and you've had that narrative in your head that maybe this just isn't what for me in my lifetime, but also you had that internal, this is what I want. I want a love story. I want a partner. I want to ride or die. I want a man to ravish me or lead me and be there with me. And we keep calling in these boys, and we keep, dating is quote unquote hard and all that aspects. I'm walking you through that in 6 months so that you can quantum leap into love alongside your career growth. And those prices are increasing in 2023. All of our prices are increasing in 2023. We're getting a whole beautiful makeover. So if you've been witnessing what we're doing here and you've been seeing the fucking growth, it's been wild this whole year, and you've been wanting to jump in, this is your invitation. So I love you. Let me know how this lands for you. I know cheating is one of those topics that we do some research bias when we're searching, so I'm happy to give you both sides of things, and I'm curious to know what landed and came up. What activated you? What felt good? What are you using? Even if you didn't deal with infidelity, what landed for you that you can use in your current relationship? And let me know. Let's start a conversation around this, or share this with someone that you feel that could benefit, that might be going through it. So I love you, and I will see you on the next What Would Laura Do? And if you have any questions that you want answered, like I said, you can just message us here and we'll answer them on the call. So bye. Happy healings.